Last night I was lucky enough to see two legendary bands, Cheap Trick and Heart, and I just want to talk about it, give my thoughts, my commentary, a bit of a review of the concert. And I know that a lot of young people follow me, of the 21 Pilots variety, but if I can get you listening to good music, I've done my job right. So let's get into this review, shall we? This concert was long awaited. I was actually supposed to go to this concert last year, but unfortunately Ann Wilson came out with a cancer diagnosis and had to undergo chemo, and everything was pushed back. But fortunately enough, the concert was just delayed and I was able to see them this year. And let me just say, my town was ready to see Heart, okay? The parking was absolutely insane. I had never seen it this plugged up for a concert, okay? They were ready to see Heart. And even inside the venue, it was stacked. All right, it was sold out. Even for Cheap Trick, everybody was in the seats, and it's so rare to see people be seated that thick for an opener, but they were there and they were seated, and it was insane. And let me just say, the benefit of seeing an older band, you got seats in the pit, baby. And I was in the pit, sitting down. Listen, I get it. I know people my age, they want to party, they want to mosh, they want to get up and dance. And I want to do that too. But I also want the privilege of being able to sit. All right, you can't look at me and say that being able to sit in the pit is not a good thing, because it is. I'm 23 going on 87. Like, sometimes mama wants to sit. And I see why there were mostly seats in the pit, because it was just a lot of old people, a lot of boomers, a lot of Gen X, and a lot of boomers. There were a couple of Gen Zers, like a handful. Probably, including me, there's probably like 5 people in their 20s there. And all of them were with an older person, which is always sweet, because this is probably, a family member and they grew up listening to Heart. The older generation passing the torch onto the younger generation, and they're able to share this music together. I think that's lovely. And even seeing people in the crowd and seeing the older people just like be so into Heart and Cheap Trick and just know that they're like singing their hearts out is really special. I want to know what it's like to grow up with a band like that. I want to have that. And I think I found mine. The culprit's back there. But I haven't been on this earth a long amount of time. Gen Alpha probably thinks I'm ancient, but 23 in the grand scheme of things is not that long to exist. And I've only known 21 Pilots about a decade, little over a decade. And I just know how incredibly important and special they are to me. So I can't even imagine how special it must be to have so many years with a band and what that must mean. And honestly, I'm excited. I'm excited to be old and still going to concerts, which that kind of normalizes that for me. I'm like always going to concerts where boomers lurk. I am used to going to the concert and being the youngest person there, and that just normalizes it for me, because I'm like, when I'm old, I'm still going to be up in the pit, you know what I mean? But yes, there were a lot of the older folks there. Makes sense, because this was a band in the 70s, but it's also why I want to make this video, because I need younger people, to get down with these older bands for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, if you're seeing a legendary band just in general, there is incredible history there, right? Obviously, whether you're someone who makes music themselves or someone who just enjoys music, I think it's incredible to be able to experience, living history in front of you. But also when it comes to women, in these rock bands, like with Heart, I think it's even more important for a different reason. As a woman in music, as a woman who's into rock music, I think ultimately this is why I'm so attracted to these older women in rock, because they were just the trailblazers. Obviously, it was a different landscape back then if you were a woman trying to make music, and certainly now it comes with its own set of issues, but I'm able to recognize that these women did incredible things, not only for rock music, but for the women that came after them. And I really just want to pay tribute to that and recognize that. I mean, if you think about it, Heart was in that era where we just had incredible women, Heart, Stevie Nicks, Christine McVie, Joan Jett, the entirety of the Runaways, Pat Benatar. Not only were they in rock music, but they rocked. They really proved the world that women could be incredible at this. And I think it's important that we pay respect to that, especially now in pop music. Women are running it. I mean, Taylor Swift, Chappell Roan, Sabrina Carpenter, Billie Eilish, Olivia Rodrigo. I saw a TikTok the other day that said they cannot think of one male Gen Z pop star, and everyone in the comments was agreeing. I mean, you can say Benson Boone, but like, Is he really? And I think it's absolutely true. The majority of artists that Gen Z has grown up with and are growing up with are female. And I think it's awesome that these women are getting the recognition that they deserve, but I think we should also be paying attention to the older women, the women that made that possible for the newer women. So go listen to older music. It's incredible. It's awesome. It's some of the best stuff you'll ever hear in your entire life, but it's also a bit of history that you can enjoy. Now that I'm off my soapbox, I can go back to the actual concert review. And before Cheap Trick took the stage, I got some merch, and I will show that to you now. This is the Cheap Trick shirt that I got, which is awesome because it's just the bass drum for Cheap Trick. That's what it looked like, and as a drummer, I love that. And we have all of the tour dates on the back. Now moving on to the Heart stuff, I'm gonna say this is probably the best band merch I've ever seen. Heart was on it. Dude, the vibes were immaculate. This was one of the main tour shirts there. We got the butterfly on the front, we got the 2025 tour, and then all of the dates on the back. But I just love the vibes. I love like the retro vibes and the colors and the butterfly. I don't know, it's just great. And this last one that I got might be one of my favorite band shirts I've gotten ever at a concert. I saw it and I was like, I need that. That's coming home with me. We got Heart, we got Dragons, we got Butterflies. There's no tour dates on the back, but that's okay because I need this in my life. Anything that has a dragon on it, I need it. Skeleton Icy who? Trash who? This looks like a genuine vintage shirt. This looks like this was like back in the 70s, but no, got it yesterday. And I love it. I just love it so much. I'm gonna wear it to class. Because that's the thing, right? You gotta wear your band merch to class so everybody knows that you're cool and hip and go to concerts. So yes, after I got my merch, Cheap Trick took the stage, and what caught my eye first, and nobody's surprised, is the drummer. As a drummer, I tend to pay attention to the drummers, sue me. But Dax Nielsen obviously knew what he was doing, and you see that a lot with these older bands because they've been doing it for years and years and years. They are professionals, they are incredible at their craft, and you could just see that in the way he plays. It was very laid back, it was relaxed, you can tell that he wasn't stressing, and it just came very naturally to him. Which if somebody plays like that, you know that they know what they're doing. Like, okay, we are dealing with a professional here. The younger drummers have a lot to prove, and they have a lot of energy. So it's a lot of just like tenseness with them, you know what I mean? And sometimes when they're not used to playing these songs, you know, over the course of decades, it can look like a struggle, you know what I mean? Not with this guy. I mean, he had nothing to prove. It was just autopilot for him, which was incredible to watch. As for the other members of the band, I'm not as well versed in their instruments because drums are my favorite instrument and it's the coolest one, so why even bother? I'm just kidding, by the way. Or am I? But I think the same thing could be said for them. They're all very low players, which means that they're very cool. If you play your instrument down like here, down low, that means you're cool. If you play your instrument up here, up close, that means you know a lot about your instrument, but you're kind of a nerd. Also on the stage was a 12-string bass. Haven't ever seen that before, so that was cool. But the distortion, my God. The distortion was up, bro. It was cranked up to an 11. And the guitarist had enough guitars and guitar picks to feed an army. I mean, my God, every song it was a different guitar. Being his tech must be the worst job in the world. I can't even imagine. Going to the function and you have to get like 50 guitars ready. Whatever they're paying him, it's not enough. And then around the end of their set, I thought Sabrina Carpenter was gonna come out and arrest somebody. And I was hoping that person was me because I love Sabrina Carpenter. Please arrest me. I want the pink fuzzy handcuffs. But unfortunately, that did not happen. What they did do, though, is throw like guitar picks by the handfuls. I mean, they were scooping them up and like... It was raining guitar picks. It was insane. That's another thing with these older bands that I've noticed is like the newer ones, they're a little stingy with what they give out. You know, it's like one guitar pick, you know, 2 drumsticks, whatever, and like that's it. These older bands, bro, they just be handing stuff out like it's crazy. But I enjoyed Cheap Trick a lot. You know, again, when you go see these older bands, it's 50-50. You never really know. The passage of time is not graceful for everybody, and rock stars aren't known to have the most preventative lifestyle. But Cheap Trick sounded awesome. They were solid. They were on it. That distortion was cranked up. but they were on it, and I enjoyed it a lot. But after that, it was time for the main event. It was time for Heart. And they started out their set with this, tapestry sheet thing over the stage, as most of them do, and there was this projection on there. And this really was the most, visual thing about their setup. There was this little message, saying that they had been through a lot, and they were going through the years from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s, and then finally to 2025. And this was the most technology I saw that entire night. Their actual setup was relatively simple. We had a very simple background. There was this little projector that did relatively simple things, but that was kind of more filler than it was visual. And even Cheap Trick had a pretty simple setup. There's a couple amps on stage, and that was it. These older bands tend to not have crazy stage visuals, and honestly, good on them. You know what I mean? The entertainment is them, and they can pull it off. If you're a legendary band like that, you don't have to do a lot in the background, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Obviously, I'm a 21 Pilots fan. There's so much that goes on what's shown on stage, and the colors they use, and the visuals that they use on screen, and I think that's great, but I think it's also great when a band just shows up and it's just hey, we're gonna play this thing, and we're not gonna have anything in the background. It's just us on a stage killing it, and I like that vibe. What I also like is being near possibly the coolest person alive, Nancy Wilson. I was so happy to see that I was on her side of the stage. My God, she's wonderful. I mean, can a person be any cooler? I don't think you can. If we were to make a vision board of who I wish to be like when I'm old, we would have Stevie Nicks, Joan Jett, and Nancy Wilson, in no particular order. And if I were to make a vision board of who I want to look like now as a 23-year-old, it would be Stevie Nicks, Joan Jett, and Nancy Wilson, and just a tiny little dash of Billie Eilish. Nancy also had her iconic pink hair, which people probably thought I dyed my hair pink because of her, but it actually wasn't. It was just divine timing, but regardless. Along with Nancy were a bunch of newer members to the band, newer to me. They were not the original members. I'm assuming these guys are just studio guys who are incredibly tight and incredibly good at their job. As what tends to happen with most older bands when they try to look for new members, it's just these studio guys that just kill it. Which that's what you have to be. When you're on stage playing a Heart song, people are expecting, Crazy on You, Magic Man, Barracuda, expecting all of these legendary songs to sound a specific way. You gotta be on it. And you gotta be tight. There's no room to be messy when you're dealing with these songs. So I absolutely see why that's the move. And then, of course, I cannot talk about the band without addressing our lead woman, Ann Wilson. Now, considering everything that Ann has been through, I wasn't sure what to expect. I'll just be honest. I did not know. I know that I would enjoy it no matter what, but as far as what she would sound like, I had no idea. But given the circumstances, I think she did a very good job. And throughout her career has this very powerful voice, which makes her awesome at rock music. She still has it. It goes to show just how incredibly talented she is. But being able to sing like that, sitting down, it's very impressive. In between some songs, Ann and Nancy would kind of have this little banter, go back and forth. Not anything like Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks is a yapper in between every single song, but I love it, and I'm sad.
So I asked him to buy me a $60,000 necklace, obviously, and he was like...
But at one point, Nancy just goes, "Thank you guys for being here with us during the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And I'm sitting there as an '01 baby, you're welcome. I was there. I wanted to be there. I think spiritually I was there. There was something in the universe that just there was a malfunction in the universe, right? Where I was supposed to exist and be on this earth, early 80s, late 70s, that, kind of golden era. But something in the fabric of the universe messed up and they spit me out a little too late. But they kept my hardwire in my brain the same, so I'm just obsessed with the 70s and the 80s, but I was born in the wrong generation. Listen, bro, I don't think I was because I love my iPhone. But as far as music and style goes, yeah, I'm in the wrong generation for that. Another thing that Nancy brought up is she said that Eddie Van Halen actually said, "You play good for a girl." Which, if you are a woman in music, you know how frustrating that is to get that compliment. It's just like, just say I'm good. It's fine. What she said is, she's like, I guess that's a good thing. She's like, you play pretty good for a human, which I might have to steal that. That might be mine now. I might have to start saying that. And she is absolutely incredible. She is just mesmerizing to watch. Seeing her play guitar made me want to pick up my guitar. I don't know a lot about guitar. I know the very basics. I know how to do a power chord. I am very Joan Jett in that I can power chord it out. But that's about where my knowledge stops. But honestly, seeing her play inspired me, and that's just the name of the game, you know what I mean? I think it's awesome when you go watch somebody live and obviously, you know, have a good time and enjoy what you're hearing, but also feeling that extra step of like, these people are so good at what they do, it makes me want to be half as good as them and want to try that for myself. And that's the thing I can say for both Nancy and Anne, is that the passion is there. Obviously they love what they do. Nancy is incredible on the guitar, but the way that Anne is really just in tune with her band, and the way that she would interact when they're not watching, and the way that she was just so in the music, you can tell that she loved what she was doing, but she was also kind of reacting as if she was a fan, like she was like somebody like in the crowd and not on stage, and just genuinely enjoying what's going on around her, which is fun to see. Obviously she's been playing these songs for a very long time, and I think a lot of these older bands, when you have hits like that and you're expected to play certain songs, or you're just playing songs that you've played your entire life, I think a lot of them grow complacent. A lot of them, you know, get tired of it and it's like, oh, all right, we gotta do this song again. Which, fair enough, I'm sure it does get tired after a while, but to see someone still have that visual passion and to still be so into what they do and just, you know, content with what they're doing, it's satisfying to see. And when she played Crazy on You, she even said afterwards, she's like, that song never grows old, because it doesn't, because it's awesome. Crazy on You is like, I don't know what they were on when they made that song. The stars aligned, the planets were aligned, something happened, because that song's just awesome. It's incredible. And I don't blame her, because I can listen to it 50 times in a row and never get sick. It's just, it's awesome. But I think there's something to be said there about musicians, because once music is in you, it stays with you for a very long time. And I'm not saying that every musician has it, but there are some where it's just like, it's a part of who they are and it's a part of their soul, and I think that's just why they do it forever and ever. You know, you see a lot of these older bands and people are like, they should just retire, they should just stop doing it. But first of all, if they want to do it and they're still selling tickets, why the heck not? But second of all, just as a musician, if that's your entire life and you've become so obsessed with music and this is what you love doing, I think absolutely you should keep doing it. And I could see why so many of them do it for so long, because I know with me, I thought it was fun just listening to music, and I was very in love with music then, just listening to it. But then when I started playing music, I was like, okay, this is pretty fun. And then it got to the point where I was writing music and I was playing music with other people, and then I was like, this is the only thing I want to do. This is the only thing that I want to spend my time doing, and this is what I want to do forever and ever. It just hits you like a truck, and I haven't been able to get rid of that feeling. So it was really cool to see that that passion on stage. They also had a self-aware encore. They had an encore that wasn't an encore. They were just like on stage, and they're like, this is the part where we get off stage and say that we're done and we're leaving, and then we sit on the side of the stage for like 20 seconds, and then we come back and do an encore. And then they were like, you don't really want us to do that though, right? And the crowd was like, no. Which I can appreciate. I like that. I don't know why everyone is just so onto these encores anymore, because it's not really an encore, you know what I mean? Like, an encore is like, you're done with your set, and then people are like, we want you to do more, and then it's like, okay, I guess we can do some more. But they've just become so pre-programmed. And it's like, I know what you're doing. The lights are still off. I know what you're doing, and I just don't want to sit and wait any longer than I have to hear, you know, the number one hit that I've been waiting on the entire night. So the fact that they just had like a self-aware encore, I appreciate that. And the encore was Sand, The Ocean by Led Zeppelin, which, a banger. And then Barracuda. ended it with Barracuda, as they should. It was just an incredible night, and I'm glad that I can walk away knowing that I saw 2 legendary bands. So there you go. Those were just my thoughts on Heart, and I understand that this was a bit of a Yap Central video, but I hope you enjoyed. If you did, you can hit the like and subscribe button to join the Groovy Graveyard. Shout out to my patron on Patreon, just a singular one, but if you want to join them, you can check out the link in my bio, and I will see you in the next one.